are you doing this?
Because it's the right thing.
Hey guys, it's me here. It's Josh. I am going to be talking to you guys again tonight. Super excited to be doing this with you. Sorry, I'm just trying to get situated. For tonight. I apologize. I realized that I hadn't muted the countdown for everything that was going on, so you guys were able to hear me. I apologize for that. But yeah, tonight we are going to just talk about tonight we're going to be talking about friends. And the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to introduce you guys to my friend. So let's see if I can find her. Espen! So, here we go. Come here. Come here. Oh! This is my friend Espen. She's a little shy. So she is one of my favorite people. Say hi, Espen. She's a little camera shy. This is my Husky Australian Shepherd mix. And yes, her name is Espen, spelled E-S-P-N. And yeah, she kept me company when I was in Oklahoma City by myself. And she's followed me here and keeps me company at Mom and Dad's house too. So this is her, Espen. You can go now. You don't have to stay. But yeah, that's my best friend. And today, that is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about best friends. And I want you guys, while I'm doing this, I want you guys to write in the comments, who is your best friend? Or a memory you had with your best friend that you just want to share with people. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite best friend duos. And we're going to talk about David and Jonathan. So a lot of people know King David. King David, was the second king for Israel. He was after Saul. And he famous stories. He defeated Goliath. He danced before the Lord. Saul tried to kill him, and he wouldn't kill him. There's, of course, the fault, when he sinned with Bathsheba. But David had this best friend, and his name was Jonathan. And Jonathan was a mighty warrior too. One of the first stories you hear about Jonathan was actually him and his shield bearer, I think it was called. The guy who would go around and hand him the weapons he needed in his shield, went against the Philistines when his dad said not to. And went and actually defeated a lot of the Philistines and actually brought victory. So he was already a man of courage as well. So you see that David and Jonathan had this really special relationship. And you see it from the first time you actually see them encounter each other. They say they loved each other as they loved themselves. And it was a very, very special relationship that you would find there. And we're going to talk about a certain time, specifically, that David and Jonathan actually saved David's life. So as we know, Saul was the anointed king, the first one. And Israel wanted him because of how he looked. They said he was head and shoulders taller. He was a very good-looking man. So they went for him for his appearance. And it's funny, if you actually look at Saul when he was becoming king, the first time you hear him, when they were trying to anoint him, he's hiding, and they can't find him. It's like, you're about to be appointed king. Why are you hiding? But they couldn't, he was hiding, and when they were trying to anoint him king. So I find that funny. There's two different characteristics that you see in Saul and David. You find Saul, the king that people thought they wanted, who was so worried about what other people thought of him that he actually would sin against God. And then you have David, who didn't even care what his own wife thought of him if it meant getting in the way of serving God. Where, he was coming, leading the processional of victory in, and dancing, and not caring what people looked like, how he looked in front of people. And his wife actually shamed him on that. And he's like, I will look like a fool for my God. So you have two different people already that you can compare. But Jonathan, for being so who is Jonathan, I guess you have to say. Jonathan's actually the son of Saul. And it's weird if you guys think about it, that Saul's son, Jonathan, was best friends with David, because he was the firstborn. So think about this. David became the anointed king of Israel. That's Jonathan's birthright. Jonathan had the birthright of becoming king after David. But Jonathan loved David enough that he realized, and he loved God. He was a God-fearing man despite his father, that he was willing to allow David to take the birthright that was rightfully his. And it says stuff. So here, we're going to go to this time. So Saul gets to this place. At first, Saul, David played his harp and sang for Jonathan and would be in his court. And he was very dear to Saul at first. And that's probably where Jonathan and David became really good friends. And then, he came and defeated Goliath. And, he did it by the mind of God. I love that. But as soon as that happened, there was a song, and I'm trying to pull it from my head. It's like Saul had killed his thousands, but David had killed his tens of thousands. Right after that, as soon as David delivered them from Goliath, which pretty much, even if I didn't get that totally correct, it might have been Saul killed his tens of thousands and David killed his hundreds. But the idea was in the comparison that they were saying David was mightier than Saul. And Saul got very envious of David very soon. And you also got to, very quickly, you also got to remember at that time, God's favor was transferring from Saul to David. And Saul no longer could feel the presence of God. And he was miserable. He was miserable. It said that a lot of times that God had sent a spirit upon him. Basically, we don't really know what that was saying. But the idea is he was just miserable. God had removed from his favor from him, and Saul felt it. And so you have these two people, and Saul, many times when David was playing his instrument for him, would actually try to kill him. And David caught on. So this is actually during that time, one of the times, right before David actually fled into the wilderness to hide. And Jonathan actually saves his life. So before I get into this, again, while we're doing this, tell me an experience with your best friend. Write out something that your best friend did for you. And this experience that, sets him apart. Do that. Do that for me. Who is your best friend? Who was a best friend? And what did they do? What's something special that you guys did together? For me, I was the best man in my best friend Tyler's wedding, and that's something so special to me, that I was able to, that he looked at me at the same way I looked at him and said, I want you to be a part of the memory of my wedding, that not just the groomsman, but you're my best man. And that was special to me. I remember, playing sports outside the church in Fort Wayne with my best friend in Fort Wayne named Sean McGettigan. And we had a lot of great times of playing basketball out by a rim we had in the back of the parking lot, or playing two-hand tap football in the big field we had right there by the church. And I have so many fond memories of Sean, or going over to his house and watching movies together, watching TV, him coming over to mine. I remember going on to the fair with him and his grandma. There was a group in Fort Wayne called Jacob's Well that was like a band. And there was this big bookstore. I don't even remember the name of it. But they would play in the coffee shop portion of it. And Sean's grandma would take Sean and I there all the time. We would go to Marco's Pizza and get pizza and sit there. I just remember a lot of fond memories with Sean. I remember sharing birthdays together. And then Tyler, same. For the last few years, Tyler has taken me to every single opening of the Star Wars movies for my birthday, because my birthday is December 19th. So in here, right, what are some of the memories you have with your best friends? But here, you see with David and Jonathan. So here, it talks about David fleeing from Saul. And it said Jonathan came. David fled from a town and came to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What did I do wrong? How have I sinned against your father so that he wants to take my life?" And that's the thing about David I love about him. He was he still wanted to honor Saul because he was still king. There's many times, 2 times he came upon Saul that he could have killed him. And he's like, I won't kill you because you're the anointed king of God right now. I'm anointed to become king, but you still are king, and it's wrong to kill you. So you see that there. And Jonathan says, no, you won't die. Listen, my father doesn't do anything great or small without telling me. So why would he hide this matter from me? This can't be true. David replied, your father certainly knows that I have found favor with you. He has said, Jonathan must not know of this, or else he'll be grieved. David also swore, as surely as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, there is but a step between me and death. Jonathan said to David, whatever you say, I will do for you. So Jonathan and David's love was so great that Jonathan was willing to protect David from his father. And they come up with this scheme. We're not going to get schemes not the right word. They came up with this plan where David would hide and Jonathan would shoot arrows. And if he shot one too far, he would know that David knew he would have to flee. And specifically, I will read you guys what happened. But the thing I love is this is in 1 Samuel 20. And after all this talking, there's this amazing thing. And they go through basically David convincing him. And said, so David told him, look, tomorrow is a new moon, and I'm supposed to sit down and eat with the king. Instead, let me go, and I'll hide in the countryside for 2 nights. This is the plan. If your father misses me at all, say, David urgently requested my permission to go quickly to his hometown of Bethlehem for an annual sacrifice there involving the whole clan. If he says, good, then your servant is safe. But if he becomes angry, you will know he has evil intentions. Deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought me into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I have done anything wrong, then kill me yourself. Why take me to your father? So the covenant we're talking about is when David and Jonathan actually swore to each other this special brotherhood. And that's where it talks about them loving each other as much as they love themselves. It's such a beautiful moment of brotherhood. And if you move on with this, Jonathan replies, no, if I ever find out my father has evil intentions against you, wouldn't I tell you? And so David asked Jonathan, who will tell me if your father answers harshly? And he answered, David, come on, let's go to the countryside. So both of them went out. They went to the countryside. And he said, if my father intends to bring evil on you, may God punish Jonathan and do so severely if I do not tell you and send you away so you may leave safely. That's how much Jonathan loved David, that he was willing to say, if I don't come to protect you, may God punish me severely. It's wonderful. And again, it says, then Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, may the Lord hold David's enemies accountable. Then Jonathan once again swore to David in his love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself. And then they come up with this plan. They says, tomorrow is a new moon. You'll be missed because your seat will be empty. The following day, hurry down and go to the place where you hide on this day, this instant began, and stay beside the rock. I will shoot 3 arrows beside it, as if I'm aiming at the target. Then I'll send a servant and say, go find the arrows. Now, if I expressly say to the servant, look, the arrows are on this side of you, get them, then come, because the Lord lives. It is safe, because as the Lord lives, it is safe for you and there is no problem. But if I say to this youth, look, the arrows are behind you, then go, for the Lord is sending you away. As for the matter you and I have spoken about, the Lord will be a witness between you and me forever. So David hid in the countryside. So you do see that Jonathan actually comes, and he does tell him that it's not safe. And David flees, and Jonathan saves his life. And it's an amazing thing to see that Jonathan loved him so much that he was willing to risk his own life, the wrath of his father, to protect David. And that's actually returned later, because Jonathan, the whole house of Saul was wiped out besides a son of Jonathan who became crippled when they were trying to escape with him. And David later finds him, and David restores him to the king, the king's castle is the only word coming to my mind right now. And he sits at the table of the king for the rest of his life. Besides, there's some other thing. When David fled, and he couldn't flee, and it's just, we're not going to get, that's a story for another time about fathers and sons, and not in a good way. But David, this man was restored, a crippled, because of David's love for Jonathan, even after Jonathan was killed when God basically forced the kingdom from Saul's hands. And David restores his son to the rightful place. So it's a beautiful picture of brotherhood. So let's read some of these comments. Dad says, I need to put my glasses on. I know I'm a nerd. Dad says, Brian Keith was mine. We played ball together and ran together till high school. Played in the woods and built forts. Carlton, Ackboy Carlton, Danforth, my brother-in-law says, Ben Ford and I have spent many late nights talking about life. He is mine and I am his. Not to mention the games we played and the music we made in the band. Yes, and it's a beautiful thing. Brotherhood, I think, so what we're talking about here, this type of brotherhood that I described with Tyler and Sean, Dad described with Brian, Carlton described with Ben. I know Ben, great guy. And what we talked about with David and Jonathan, you can see other relationships like this. Jesus and John the Beloved, Paul and Barnabas. You can see throughout there's this a special brotherhood, and I think Jesus and the 12 disciples. And I think it's important to know that God intends us to live life together. We are better when we are with others. Best friends are something we need to have. I constantly use this analogy of the lion. You know, it says that the devil is like a lion, seeking whom he may devour. A couple things. It says whom he may devour, which is singular. But also, what does that says brothers in the hood. Whom does a lion seek to devour? When you look at them in like Africa, they always go for the animal, the prey that is by itself. So God meant for us to live together. Jesus showed us that with the 12. Fellowship is very important. In 1 John it said, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus Christ cleanses us from all unrighteousness. We are meant to be together. Jesus talks about a three-course rope is impossible to break. We're meant to be together. And right now is so hard. They're so hard to be together. And loneliness is so hard to defeat. But we just have to work extra hard to find a way. Even if it's Zoom calls to play games with each other, we need fellowship. Fellowship is a vital part of, and my dog's about to bark. I apologize because my mom's about to walk in the house. Told you, I apologize. Espen, stop. Espen. But friendships are so important. Mom, I'm on. Friendship is so important, and we have to have that fellowship with one another. It's vital. And if you see it in David and Jonathan, they built each other up. Paul and Barnabas, they built each other up. The 12 disciples, they built each other up. And it's vital for we can hold each other up. I'm reminded of a story. Dad says, if one is alone in the field and falls, who will pick him up? Very true. I'm reminded of a story of even Moses. When Joshua was leading the battle and the war, the God said that as long as Moses holds his hands up, that they will prevail. And a man named Hur and Aaron, because Moses couldn't hold his arms up. Anytime he would start coming down, Israel would start losing. But when they were up, Israel would prevail. Aaron and Moses actually, Hur and Aaron actually came up and held Moses' arms up. And I think that is one of the best visuals we could ever see of what brotherhood is. It's coming alongside each other and bearing the burden together. Whatever our brother bears, we help them. It's about not leaving them alone, but being stronger together. So that's what I wanted to talk about with you guys tonight. Friends. We all need friends. We all need to surround ourselves with Christian fellowship so that we can be stronger together. Guys, and that's what I really want you to focus on this week. Who are your friends? Who is your group of people that you surround yourself with that help you bear your burden? Who is your her and who is your Aaron? Because we all need them. We all need someone that we can contact when we are in trouble. Tyler is one of mine. Carlton and I talk a lot. I mean, he is my brother-in-law, but I see him as my actual brother. We talk and we bear each other's burdens. My dad, it's weird that we have become that, but I guess as you progress, relationships like that do change. And my dad is a great person that I go to with my burdens. That says the power of together. Exactly. We need each other. We need together. Jesus, I mean, I hate to say this. I take this the way I mean it. But Jesus, do you think he needed to surround himself with 12? But he did to set an example for us. He knew that we would need that fellowship. He knew that we would need that fellowship, that we would need the power of together. So it looks like I'm starting to get a connection error, and it's about that time to end it anyways. So I want to end with that. Real quickly, before I end, I want to remind you guys of a couple things. One, our Mother's Day Out is starting in the first week of October. And if you guys if you have a 1 to 4 year old, we need you guys. If you guys need a break, we're going to do a Mother's Day Out starting next week. And go to bigsbfwb.church/GLC. Also, we have a new page for our next steps. It's right there. And if you're talking to somebody and you need to direct them to some next steps, this page right here has a link to some videos that Pastor George on Growing Generations done. It has a form for them to fill out after Sunday. We're going to start. This is where our next steps are going to be. Pretty soon we're going to have an outline of what our small groups are. And lastly, if you're a guest and you're watching this and you're looking for find our website to learn more about us, go to bigsbfwb.church. This is where you can find next steps. This is where you can find Generations Learning Center, which is what we're calling the place that's going to host our Mother's Day Out. This is where you can find more information about us. This is where we can find our services. So, guys, I love you. I hope you guys have a great week. I can't wait to see you guys Sunday. Reminder that we have 2 services on Sunday. We have 2 services on Sunday. We have a 9:30 a.m., and that one is required to wear a mask until you sit down. And we have an 11 a.m. that is mask provided. So whatever you guys feel like you need to come to, we have both of those. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Wednesday evening, and that you guys just experience God in an amazing way. Remember, go